يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مكرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعتي من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاقه. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذية حمدي لابتداء كرمك وصالح برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي. أتراك معذب بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد من طوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيت أو تبائد من أدريت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدة وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقة وبشكرك مادحة وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارها سعت الأوطان تعبدك طائية وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنة. ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم. يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكفوه يسير بقاؤه قصير مدته فكيف احتمال لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الضليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولم منها ضج وأبكي لأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته. فلئن صيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي. صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وهبني. صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجاء عفوك. فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقة لا ضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآملين ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين ولو نادينك إن كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية آمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وضاق تعماضى بها بمعصيته وحبس بين أتباكها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يضج إليك ضجيجا مؤمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك. يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يعمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يهركه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربه؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها هيهات؟ ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين أكدوا لولا ما حكمت به من تعظيم جاحدك وقضيت به من إخلاد معاندك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كانت لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقامة. لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأن تجلى ثناؤك. قلت مبتدعا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته وأخفيته أو أظهرت وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جواره وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيته وبفضلك سترته وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلته أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفر خطأ تستر. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رزقي يا من بيده ناصيتي يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورة وبخدمتك موصولة وأعمالي عندك مقبولة حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدة وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي يا من عليه مؤولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قوي على خدمتك جواره واشدد على العزيمة جوانه وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرع إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في البارزين وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرده ومن كادني فكده واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخصهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجد لي بجودك وعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجة وقلبي بحبك متيمة ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأكلني أثرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني منايا ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وصلاحه البكاء يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النكم يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد رحم الله منك رسول مباركة الفاتحة.
So we said 5 times, Ahayam Yubu, for all those who are sick, for the safety of all the Muslims everywhere, all those in need of du'as. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Circles, there is a major concern that has emerged amongst those who are parents when they see the tide before them of the number of people who are following certain trends and behaviors in society, when they recognize the number of challenges and obstacles there exists in many different areas, for example, related to people's adherence to faith. For instance, when it comes to the influence of friends or the role of schools, many parents have now come forward and said that the idea of parenting in this modern era is one of the most difficult. It's one of the most challenging. They often compare the situation with that of their own fathers or forefathers. They say you didn't have to deal with WhatsApp or Instagram, you didn't have to deal with a smartphone, or the availability of so much information that could mislead our children. And therefore, arguably, it's presented that it is possible that parenting today may be more challenging than the past. Although many of the parents of the past would say to you and I that every particular generation had its own challenges, that it may not be fair to compare one generation to another. I read in India, there was a man who took his parents to court. And the case against his parents was, they didn't ask me when they brought me into this life. It's their fault that I am alive. To the extent that today we have these kind of situations. No doubt there are many parents who recognize what is often said about the responsibility to spiritually nurture as well as physically look after their children. The physical and educational development, as far as schooling, as far as health, is one that many parents have taken seriously. Because I remember one particular individual once was telling his son, he was a farmer, and his farmer said, I don't need to go to school or university. I want to be like you, father. I want to be a farmer like you. The father said, what do you mean? He said, look at us. We live in a very happy situation. We have animals. We have an income. Why should I go to university? Why should I gain knowledge as far as schooling is concerned? I'll just be like you. The father looked at him and says, how many donkeys do we have here? He said, just one. He said, if you don't go to university, we'll end up having 2 donkeys. In the recognition that, this is very important. Education is of the greatest of importance. Yet when it comes to the challenges that many parents face, there is a question that is posed. How do we navigate through them? What are the tips that can be given in order to somehow rise up to that challenge? Remember, the Quran praises parents incredibly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran comes forward and says, قُلْ تَعَالَوْا أَتْلُ مَا حَرَّمَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ. Let me tell you what Allah has made haram for you. And he talks about, for example, taking the money of the orphans, talks about killing innocent civilians, talks about usurping the rights of others. Amongst all the description of what is haram, Allah mentions something which is completely different. He says, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. This is not to do with the discussion. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is talking about what's not permissible. Yet in the middle, he says you must show respect towards parents, to draw attention to its importance, to highlight its significance. That is completely different to everything else. But the idea of the respect and reverence to parents in Islam is something most of us are very much aware of. Somebody asked a question. Today I have, for example, my young son or daughter. They are not very much interested in religion. They are not praying. They don't wear the hijab. They listen to music. They have relationships outside marriage. They don't come to mosque. How am I supposed to make them closer to deen? Because some of the parents really become frustrated because they themselves were brought up in an environment of closeness to Allah or the love of religion, or at least they practice. Yet they struggle because their kids are not interested in practicing Islam. So they ask, what can we do? What are the tips you can recommend? And this discussion requires several hours. And unfortunately, time does not permit us to go into detail. But I'll present a few that are useful for parents, for grandparents, for those who are looking to get married. These are all important indications for us to progress. The first tip is, what is the role of a parent? What are you trying to achieve? There are some parents who want their children to be happy. There are some parents who want their children not to be aggravated. There are some parents who want to make them the best in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Identify the goal of parents and work together as husband and wife, because there needs to be a plan, number one. Number two, what is the type of parenting that we adopt? Please understand. They say there are 3 types of parenting. 2 are not recommended, 1 is recommended. Sometimes we need the amalgamation of all 3 due to certain circumstances. But these are the types of parenting that is discussed. Number 1 is the authoritarian parent. That is the parent that says my way or the highway. That is the parent that enforces whatever they want upon the children. That is the parent that treats their children either through reward or punishment. I'll give you an example. The child is told, go and pray. After an hour, the parent comes and says, did you pray? He says, no, I was watching baseball. The parent says, because you did not pray and I told you to pray, you are banned from watching TV or playing PS5 for the next week. Punishment. That is the authoritarian parent. The child grows to learn that the only way things are done is through reward and punishment, or through my way, and that's it. In other words, enforcement. We are told today in modern psychology, this is not the best way. If you and I present Islam in such a manner, our kids are lost. If you say to your 9-year-old daughter, if you don't wear hijab, I'll deprive you from seeing your friends. She will wear hijab until she goes to college, then she'll take it off. Because all she understands from hijab is her parents saying, we will punish you if you don't wear hijab. That is destructive. Sometimes it works for certain situations, but generally no. The second type of parenting, it's called what? Permissive parenting. What is permissive parenting? It's when the parent, all they want is to please their child. Whatever you wish. We want to make you happy. I don't want to upset you. I don't want to make you angry. I don't want to in any way annoy you. So parents succumb to the demands and the behaviors of children. Let's use the same example. Did you pray? No. Why? I'm watching the TV. Don't worry. Whenever you can pray, pray. It's okay. Keep watching TV. That is permissive parenting. That is also a problem. It is now sending a message to the child that your way always works. That you can demand whatever you wish. There is no role for the parent whatsoever except to satisfy the desire of the child. They are there to make the child happy. Usually there is a third one, which is the best one, isn't it? And the third one, it's called what? It's called authoritative, not authoritarian. What is this? This is when the parent recognizes there is a difference between short-term parenting and long-term parenting. When the parent sees something wrong, immediately they get angry and they react. They want to fix the problem there and there. Short-term parenting. Like, for example, a parent has given a child a bike. The bike is not locked, therefore it's stolen. The parent now shouts at the child, why did you not lock the bike? It's your fault. Don't worry though, I'll get you another one. But you need to learn about this in the future. This is wrong. This is short-term parenting. You're fixing the problem now. You're not looking at the potential future and how you can build for the future. You ask me how. The authoritative parent understands that in order to empower the child, there needs to be a discussion regarding the causes. There is dialogue. There is consultation. There is eye-to-eye andragogy. Andragogy means what? It means when an individual sits at the same level and has a meaningful discussion, not pedagogy. Pedagogy is when I am sitting here and I am telling you what to do and I'm enforcing upon you. The child sits with the parent if they have not prayed. The parent sits at the eye level, says in a very calm, loving, not shouting, not accusing, not punishing, can you explain to me why you didn't pray? Why do you think it is important for you to pray? Allow the child to develop their own understanding and come to a conclusion based on a meaningful discussion between the father or the mother and their child. You and I, as parents, will tell me, perhaps that doesn't work with my children. They won't want to talk to me. They don't want to have a meaningful conversation. Forget the dialogue. They'll say to me, what's wrong with you? Why are you talking to me? The reason why we think the dialogue will not work is because we have not invested in what is known as child-parent connectedness. Please understand these terms. Perhaps they are difficult when we are fasting, but hopefully they make some sense. What is child-parent connectedness? It is seen to be the most important factor in parenting today. You know why our children are not performing their wajibat? Do you know why they are not listening to parents when they're telling them do something? Do you know why? It's because the parent is not connected to the child. There's disconnection. This disconnection is the one that is causing disobedience. This disconnection is one that is causing the parent to be frustrated and the child to be rebellious. There is no connection. Connection means what? Connection today, it's shown that if the parent and the child are connected, and this is enhanced, this is the most powerful means to predict a healthy adult life. You know, those that don't go into violence, don't go into mental health, are the ones that had connection with their parents. It's when the child feels at ease and comfort to speak to their parents. And it is when the parents gives time and effort and love to the child. Please understand this. What do we mean? There is a problem today, a pandemic in parent-child relationship. And that is what? We are too busy for our children. We do not give them enough time. We do not invest when they are when they are young. Meaning what? The child comes to the parents when they are young, 5, 6 years old. I want to show you my drawing. Okay, later. I want to tell you a story. No, I don't have time. I need to call. This is a problem with fathers especially. Fathers in parenting sometimes, they take the role of a wall in the house, sorry to say. Do you know what a wall in the house does? It serves a purpose with keeping the house from collapsing, but doesn't do anything else. It's very bland, it's just a wall. They come back from work tired. Weekend, they are busy. They don't invest in enhancing their relationship from children from a young age. Children have concerns, they have questions, they have feelings. They love time spent by their parents with them, to play, to invest in them, to show that they're concerned or they respond to them in a meaningful way. Yes, eye to eye, same level. That is very, very important. We are told the enhancement of the child-parent connectedness is one that the Quran and the Ahl al-Bayt espouse and indeed have presented. I tell you, when you look at examples of parenting in the Quran, what do you find? You find, for example, Yaqub, salamullahi alayh. You find, for example, Luqman, salamullahi alayh. You find, for example, Ibrahim, salamullahi alayh. One common denominator amongst all these examples in the Quran is love and connectedness with their children. What do you mean? Quran tells us that Ibrahim is commanded by Allah to kill his son. He doesn't need to ask him. Doesn't need to ask him. Quran tells us Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Ibrahim in the dream, you must kill. But Ibrahim comes in the most love. He says to his son, قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى. What's your opinion, my dear beloved son? When the Quran uses bunay, it means an expression of affinity and compassion. Now imagine some of us, if we had this command from Allah, you have to do this to your son. We come and grab them, say, come, khalas. You are today going to be slaughtered. Allah has told me. You have no choice. What are you talking about? Allah, forget Allah. If the Prophet, forget the Prophet, Imams, if a marja comes or alim comes and tells us, you must do this. Do we consult? Do we engage in meaningful discussions with our children? Perhaps not. So the Quran gives us a different path sadly from that which we have engaged or developed throughout our lives. That is why in the life of the Ma'soomeen, this is similar, isn't it? Sayyidatun Nisa, Fatima al-Zahra al-Batul, salawatullahi wa salamu alayha, is performing salah. She is reciting dua. When she finishes, her son comes to her, the second holy Imam, peace and blessings be upon him. He says to her, my dear mother, why did you pray for others and not us first? Sometimes the dismissive parent, the not connected parent, the parent who doesn't value the question of their children, looks at and says, that's not your business. Why are you asking? Or gets frustrated by a question that they can't answer. Too difficult. Who created God? A child comes and asks the parent. The parent says, why are you asking me this question? Whereas look at the lady of light. No hesitation. There is connection. There is love. There is affinity. The idea is she responds to him and says, Ya bunay al-jar thumma ad-dar. First, we remember neighbors. We remember others. Then we remember ourselves. This in itself is teaching selflessness, is teaching altruism. The question here that we have to pose is, how do I enhance my connectedness with my child? What do I need to do? One, we need to listen much more than we currently do. Listening is one of the most powerful tools Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And we mustn't listen to respond, we must listen to understand. Often you and I, when we have a discussion, I am listening to you so that I know how to respond to you. That's the problem. We are not actively listening. We are listening because we want to feel good. We are listening so that I respond with something that makes me feel in a better position, especially if there is a heated discussion. When a child and the parents, father or mother, have a discussion, and a child is, for example, disobedient or is not doing something, the parent, sadly sometimes, does not wish to be empathetic and understand where the child is coming from. Rather, they want to enforce their law and be punishing on them, or a dictator by saying, you are doing this, this is this, this is this. Many a times, the child will feel that the parent are not really listening to them. They are listening physically, but they're not there to understand. Another key aspect that we have to remember is that sometimes when we are busy, a child comes and wants some attention. Drop everything and gives them the attention. Drop everything that you're doing. This is very key. Sometimes what we need to do as well is allocate special time with our children, 20 minutes a week, especially young teenagers, 10, 11, 12, 15, those ages, 20 minutes a week where you spend the quality time with your child, an activity that they like, walking, going together to something that they enjoy, playing with them. This make it a special thing, that they feel there is investment in this. They feel there is what? There is willingness from the parent to be concerned about their life, and they will begin to open. You know, the problem today is many of our parents, they complain that their children, sons or daughters, they don't tell them when they are in trouble. They tell their friends. Do you agree? 14-year-old is having issues. A 15-year-old is having desires and wants to be associated with the opposite gender. They'll tell their friends. They won't come to their parents. Why? Because they're worried about the reaction of the parent. We have had cases in our communities where the child is taking cannabis, weed. I know in parts of the US now, I don't know, in Florida maybe it's available, not alhamdulillah. But in other places, I was in Vancouver, we walked past shop, you can go and buy. Like you're buying M&Ms. Yes? It's there, people can buy it now. So it's become much of a problem. By the way, some mu'mineen have come and said, have the marja changed the ruling? I said, subhanallah, when America and Canada make it halal, then we make it halal after them. Do we follow the rules to do with countries, or if we have our own Islamic rulings? Yes, it's still haram. Nothing has changed in that regard when it comes to cannabis, weed, and so on. The question is, you hear, God forbid, that your child is taking it. What is your reaction? Full of anger, frustration. Ya Allah, why? My child is not like somebody who is, mashallah, always praying. And so you come hard on that particular child. If the child feels a sense of connectedness with you, we all make mistakes. They can sit and have a meaningful discussion. And we can dig deeper to understand why there is a problem, why they actually took that route, and try to help them overcome. It's about problem solving. It's about giving them confidence to learn with difficulties in life. It's about character building. That is very important, to build their personality. Yes? And the other key factor that Islamic teachings point in creating this connectedness is this: parents cannot be CCTV on their children all the time. You cannot watch them what they do in their own room. You cannot enforce everything upon them. Allah has given us a gift. We must develop this gift. What is this gift? This gift is called the conscience. One of the most effective parenting is to develop such a strong relationship with your child that the child will feel that you are what? Are always in presence with them, but not in physical presence. Meaning what? That inner self will tell them, is this right or wrong? Music is a classic example. There are certain types of music which are halal and certain types of music which are haram. The child doesn't know which is halal and which is haram, usually, unless the parents explain to them. But as they grow older, if they have that inner alarm bell that tells them, stay away from this because there is a concept that I have to apply, they will take it what? They will take it seriously. That building of the conscience is very important. When you go to the grocery store, if they have that inner thing that I cannot eat haram meat or haram content, they will pick up a candy bar and they will see the ingredients themselves when they can read. Because you've nurtured that in them. Not all the time telling them, I'll tell you what is halal and haram, don't worry. Develop in them the sense to themselves, have confidence to what? To understand the rulings. Somebody asks, what is music that is halal, what is haram? The fiqh reminder for today, before we end, and that is the following. If the music, any type of music, is suitable and one that can be played in gatherings of haram, such as parties, pubs, bars, clubs, disco, then it's haram. But if it's a music that is not usually played there or doesn't fit there, then it's halal. That's the ruling of His Eminence Ayatollah Sistani. It's very general. And so the child may not understand such a concept. Final element here is with regards to the idea that we must nurture in them from a young age the love of Ahl al-Bayt alayhum as-salam. That is so key, because if they have love for Ali Muhammad, they can indeed become successful individuals when they grow. And I leave you with this story of this individual by the name of Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh, from the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali one day came home and saw his daughter. She was consuming honey. Honey at that time was like very expensive candy, right? So she was consuming honey, and he knew that he didn't bring the honey. So he asked her, where did you bring this honey from? She said, a man brought it and said, this is from Muawiyah, a gift for you. So I have not had honey for such a long time, I began to eat. Look at the moment here, a parent who's connected and a parent who knows long-term parenting, not short-term. Short-term parent says, how dare you, takes it away and says what? This is wrong, never do it again. That's a short-term parent. A long-term parent, what Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali did, a student of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he said to her, my dear daughter, can I tell you something? She says, yes. He said, have you seen sometimes food that has poison in it, but it looks delicious? She says, yes. He says, this is delicious honey, but it's got poison in it. She said, what kind of poison? He said to her, Muawiyah wants to take away the love of Ali from your heart. That's what he wants to do, right? She vomited it out, forcefully took it out and said, by Allah, no one can take the love of Ali from my heart. Yes? So that kind of discussion, that kind of meaningful, yes, loving relationship is what we need to, inshallah, work together to establish. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us tawfiq to have many of these conversations. This is the start of these conversations. We need to have workshops and discussion circles to present useful, latest tools of parenting to all mu'mineen and mu'minat. We pray to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our deeds with the barakah of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن الثار والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. ولعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأسلام الشامخة والإرهاب المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين، وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي، وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والأروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسوله أني بكم مؤمن وبيا بكم موقن، بشراء ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم، وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. بأبي أنت وأمي يا ابن رسول الله، بأبي أنت وأمي يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استهلت منك المهارم، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباء، السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله ووداء، السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصر، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله، بأبي أنتم وأمي تبتم وتابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما، ويا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوسيين، السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأهوتهم على الإسلام. أشهد لك أن نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي. ولعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استهلت منك المهارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المهام الناصر والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل، والحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليكم يا ساداتي وموالي جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا غريب الغرباء السلطان أبو الحسن مولانا علي بن موسى الرزاق، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدي في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أختك فاطمة المعصومة ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب الأسر والزمان، الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا قاعدة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته.